AI trends in marketing and strategy, how AI is outsmarting corporate executives, and inside Lidl's massive SAP failure. Those are just a few of the topics we'll cover here today in episode 217 of Transformation Ground Control.
Welcome to Transformation Ground Control. Ground Control. The podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation. This podcast features technology agnostic and international discussions related to digital strategy, software selection, implementation, change management, business process optimization, and everything else you need to know to make your digital transformation project successful. Whether you're embarking on an ERP implementation, supply chain transformation, or any other business or digital transformation, this podcast is for you. Now, here's your host, Eric Kimberling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Hello, welcome to Transformation Ground Control. Thanks for joining us today. This is the podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation, including the strategy, people, process, and technology aspects of change. This is a tech-agnostic view of the world of digital transformation. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And joining me, as always, is our co-host, Darian Chwialkowski. Darian, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great episode planned for you today. Some fun stuff we're going to get into. We're going to get into some opening social media questions. We're going to get into some newsworthy topics around how corporate executives might be getting outsmarted by AI. We'll also talk about how ServiceNow is acquiring Logic AI. And then later in the show, we're going to have our first guest on the show. His name's Vladimer Botsvadze. He is a AI expert. He's an advisor to the U.S. AI Institute. He's based out of Georgia, the country Georgia, not the state Georgia in the United States, but the country Georgia. And he's going to be joining us to talk about AI trends in marketing and strategy. And then later in the show, we're going to get into a case study, an ERP failure case study involving the German grocery retailer Lidl, or Lidl, depending on how you pronounce it. I think it depends on which part of the world you're in. But this is a big, massive $600 million SAP failure, and we're going to talk about why that project failed and what some of the lessons and takeaways are from that failed implementation. So a lot to cover here today, but before we get to our guests and our other topics, what kind of questions have you received recently on social media, Darian?
Yeah, so today we have some interesting comments, I would say more than anything, and I wanted to get your response to them, Eric. So the first one is, both of you live in an insulated and blind world that depends on faulty software with so many backdoors that they could make it tell you, I think he's trying to say, they could tell you that the sky is green and you would believe it. And
what's the context of this comment, or do you remember what video?
It was from the podcast that was recently published a couple episodes ago.
And so what's the question, or what's the comment around that?
Just a comment about how we just blindly believe in like faulty software. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting concept, because there's really two responses that come to mind. One is, certainly when you have a faulty implementation and you don't have accurate data, or you don't have access to accurate data, and you're getting faulty information, it could lead to bad decisions. And so if you don't have good technology and good data within that technology, it can lead to flawed strategic decisions. But there's also, I don't know which angle this person's getting at, if it's that piece of it, the kind of the post-implementation usage of ERP and technology, or if that person is referring to being sold a bill of goods from software vendors and being told certain things that the software can do, and being sold this vision that isn't realistic. And I think both of those are real challenges in the world of technology. You have to take with a grain of salt what technology vendors and the service providers that support those software vendors, the system integrators, you need to take that all with a grain of salt and do your own homework and research and get your own tech agnostic and independent, unbiased view of what the strengths and weaknesses of any given technology are. Because I think a lot of executives do believe that the sky is green, to use that person's analogy there. They believe the sky is green, and they believe whatever software vendors tell them. And so you do have to take it with a grain of salt. And then certainly when you get through your implementation, or as you're going through your implementation, you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to data and the data governance and the processes that impact your data, because if you have flawed data or faulty data in the system, it's going to lead many to think that it's a failed implementation, and many would say it's a failed implementation if you can't access data and get real-time visibility into your operations. Then that probably means that you don't have the right data, and it's not a good investment at that point. So depending on which angle that person's talking about, those are the two things that come to mind.
Yeah, that's fair. The second question today is about AI. It's kind of another comment, I guess, too, but it says AI only looks good to people who have no idea what they're looking at and only look at the reports. The data spit out by the associated software is not correct, but the CIOs don't care as long as the lies they are reading says it makes good money.
That's interesting. And back to the previous question and answer around data, it makes me wonder if this person's alluding to the fact that if you slap AI tools into an organization that has dirty data and inaccurate data, you're going to get faulty information from your AI tool. So you can't implement AI and hope and expect that it's somehow going to give you accurate information when you're not feeding it accurate inputs. And so that's, I think that's really highlighting the importance of data and data governance and making sure that you've got solid data in place as a foundation. But even with solid data and accurate data, you do have to manage AI. You can't just let AI, blindly let AI do its thing and assume that anything you get from AI is the right answer. I know when I use AI, I constantly have to tell it to redo stuff because it's not exactly what I wanted, or it's not pulling the exact information I wanted. So I think that's just, knowing how to interact with AI is something that people need to be trained on, and they need to be trained on the flaws and the blind spots of AI too. And so it's somewhat of a change management and user adoption issue as well that you've got to be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Super interesting. But this kind of leads nicely into our first newsworthy topic of the day, which is about AI, but it's about how ServiceNow is acquiring Logic AI. This is obviously kind of a big move for ServiceNow, a company that is known for its AI-driven CPQ technology. This deal is more than just a product grab. It's a strategic expansion that puts ServiceNow deeper into CRM and sales automation. Here's what stood out on the article that I read was that Logic AI's CPQ tools help automate quoting, optimize deals, and enable cross-selling and upsell powered by AI and rules engines. This adds a serious boost to ServiceNow's Salesforce automation and self-service capabilities for customers. And kind of the real takeaway was ServiceNow is using this to further integrate sales, service, and AI-driven workflows, essentially creating an end-to-end CRM ecosystem. And with their investments, in agentic AI and generative AI, this acquisition is clearly part of a bigger play that we've been seeing them take, and I think we've been tracking across this podcast as well. So Eric, I just want to get your take on this. What are your thoughts about them acquiring the Logic AI, and do you see it moving itself up as a competitor in the CRM space?
Yeah, that's super interesting because actually, as you were reading that, I was pulling this up, but I'm working on one of my next batch of YouTube videos that I'm going to be filming is going to be the top AI enabled ERP systems. And so that video will probably come out shortly after this podcast episode is released. But in that top 10 list, I'm looking at all the enterprise technologies and the ones that are leaders in terms of AI, the use of AI. And ServiceNow is one of them. And they were kind of lower in that top 10, but they were in the top 10. And I imagine this new information might mean that they move up a little bit. And ServiceNow is among the leaders of the pack, I would say, in terms of their investments in AI and their usage of AI and the advantage that they have just because their software gathers such mass volumes of data, especially as it relates to like customer interactions and service tickets and things like that, customer service, all that high volume type transactions with a customer facing side of things. And that just plays well to AI in general. So I think it's smart that they're investing both organically in their capabilities as well as going out and acquiring some of these best of breed AI tools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your take though on the self-service and B2B sales? Do you think that AI driven configuration tools could replace human sales reps in some cases?
I think it could. I think you probably need sales reps to be still, you still need someone to manage the process and manage the exceptions and things like that. So it may be that you don't need people that are quite as technically competent, especially you mentioned the word CPQ or the acronym CPQ. And just for those that don't know, CPQ stands for configure, price, quote. And that's an important part of the sales process for companies that sell more complex, customizable products. And so, for example, if you buy a big make-to-order machine that has all these different variations and combinations that you could combine into your own tailored machine, there's certain configurations that work and certain ones that don't. And so you need a CPQ module or technology will provide the parameters and the business rules behind what can and can't be configured certain ways. So it's a lot like, if you think about buying a car, there's certain configurations you can do and there's certain configurations you can't do because you might not be able to drive the car if you configure certain things a certain way, like the tires are too small or too big or whatever. It's just not going to be functional. So you need to know what those parameters are and those business rules are behind whatever that tailored custom product is. So the reason I bring all this up is because that's an example of how technology can do the thinking and the business rule parameters do what humans had historically done. And if AI is doing that now, to where the buyer can now go into an AI tool and tell it what it wants and needs, the AI tool can tell that person, no, that doesn't work, or yes, that configuration does work, and here's what the price would be if you did configure it that way. All that stuff is stuff that humans had historically done. So if you take that away, now you might need less sales reps, or at the very least, your sales reps can sell a lot more because you've got a lot more people that you can engage with using these AI tools, to where you're not necessarily having to have direct one-on-one conversations with a human as you might have in the past. So one of two things will happen. Either some salespeople are going to lose their jobs, and or salespeople are going to be expected to sell more, and they are probably going to sell more because now they've got tools that allow them to do it.
That makes sense. And one last question about this. Eric, would you personally trust an AI to quote and configure deals in your business?
I might trust. I'd say I'd trust but verify. So I would trust it, but I would also want to look at it. And that's true for anything. Anytime I touch AI, it's sort of, I have that trust but verify mentality. There's times where I ask it to do something, if it's content creation or, for example, taking one of my videos and converting it into an article, something like that. There's times where it comes out nearly flawless and nearly exactly identical to how I would write it and using my voice and style. But there's other times where it's just off. It's like, okay, that's not quite what I sound like, or you didn't quite accurately capture the essence of what I was saying in a video or whatever it was. So you do have to trust but verify, because it's just like an employee or a human. It might be the 90% or 95% or whatever the number is. A certain percentage of the time, things are great, but there is a small subset of time that it's not great. And those exceptions are what need to be managed with humans. And so it's important not to let AI run on its own. Back to the earlier question you asked too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of interesting going into our next newsworthy topic here, which is, CEOs say AI can outthink their boards, which is interesting that you say trust but verify. So we'll see kind of what this is about. So this headline obviously made me stop, and I was like, wait, what? And what the stat was 94% of CEOs think AI could make better decisions than their own board members. That stat comes from, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Dataca's latest report. And it doesn't stop there. 89% of CEOs believe AI could develop better strategic plans than their executive team. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around AI right now, given that AI can crunch data faster than humans, spot patterns across internal and external resources, and even run simulations of what-if scenarios in seconds, compared to obviously humans having to play it out. But is it really ready for the C-suite is kind of the debate right now. So some experts say not quite. AI still lacks creativity, emotional intelligence, and business context, but others argue that AI is best used as a powerful assistant and not replacement. Think heavy lifter and not visionary. So Eric, I just wanted to I thought this was a very interesting article. There was also one other statistic in here. 73% of CEOs are worried that they'll lose their job in the next 2 years if they don't deliver measurable AI results. So a lot of different interesting stats in here. But Eric, overall, what do you think about just this article in general?
What can you repeat that 73% stat? I heard you say it, but the words didn't register. 73% of CEOs are what? They're on the
They're
hot seat.
worried they're going to lose their job in the next 2 years if they don't deliver measurable AI results.
Oh, so specific to AI, not just measurable results, but measurable results to AI with AI. They're worried. Wow, that's a really high number that I would not have expected already.
Yeah.
I have read recently, just as a side note, I think it was a Wall Street Journal article about how boards, like an overwhelming majority of boards of all different types of companies, are sort of imposing or not imposing, but pushing their organizations to adapt AI. And it's not just tech companies or marketing agencies or things that you would expect to be a little bit more potentially automated with AI. It's, manufacturers, industrial companies, all kinds of companies out there are looking for AI ways to use AI, especially PE-owned firms. It was saying that companies that are owned by PE or have PE investments, they're pushing especially hard into the AI world. So that's a super interesting stat. I didn't know it was that high. That it was 73%. But what I will say is that I think that AI could potentially deliver better strategic results in terms of planning or decision making than some boards or executive teams. But I think AI on one hand, it levels the playing field, but it also it sort of puts more pressure on you to find that competitive advantage. So if AI is going to it's going to level the playing field for all of us, that just puts more pressure on each of us to step it up. I mean, I feel like we're not just competing with each other now, we're competing with AI in some ways. Even though AI is a tool, it's an enabler, it's an augmentation to what we already do well. It can be an augmentation to what we already do well. It's almost like we have to stay ahead of AI as humans, and especially knowing that everyone else now has access to this really powerful tool that we just haven't had access to before. So I don't know that it can truly replace strategic planning and decision making. I actually take issue with that. I have trouble seeing that being the case, because then that would mean sort of like what I always say about enterprise technology in general. If everyone's using the same technology and has the same tools and the same processes, then none of us are different. None of us have a competitive advantage, and we're just all, scraping to get by, I guess you could say. But if we are finding that unique differentiator, different ways of using AI or technology and different than what other people have done in the past, and we're being innovative, then that innovation and creativity combined with AI is what I think is going to make companies succeed. And it's what's going to make these executives succeed in their quest to avoid getting fired by not delivering AI business value. So that's my take on it, how I see it unfolding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it kind of comes back to that conversation we had with Khalid a while ago on this podcast about how if everybody's using the same AI, you're realistically like handing your competitor your playbook.
Yeah.
And so that's something that obviously companies are going to have to be careful about as well. Another question though, if AI is sitting on board meetings and giving input, how should companies balance that with traditional leadership dynamics?
Sorry, say that again, by sitting in board meetings?
Yeah, if AI is sitting there giving suggestions in board meetings, how do they balance, that side of it with also, a traditional dynamic?
That's kind of interesting and funny to think about. I don't know why, it just made me laugh thinking about having a board meeting and then you've got this AI bot over here chirping in your ear, and like you're like, wait, what's it saying? And I could see myself getting super distracted by it, but that's just me. I can't multitask. As you can see, I'm thinking about one thing and I miss your question, as I've done twice already in this episode so far. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't know that we're there yet. I mean, I think it kind of gets back to, knowing where AI's role is going to be. And in strategy, I think it's a great thing to use as a sounding board. Like I use ChatGPT all the time to ask it questions around like, what it thinks I could, what kind of content it thinks I should have on my YouTube channel, or what types of guests do they recommend. I've gone so far as to ask it to suggest a list of guests that I should invite to my podcast. And I've actually taken a couple of those ideas, but some of the ideas were terrible that I didn't like. So, that's fine. That's okay. But it gave me a couple ideas that I wouldn't have otherwise had, but it had to be me, and it has to be you that decides what to do with that information and how to build on that information or build on what you're getting from AI. And again, back to the competitive advantage, you're not going to have any sort of competitive advantage if you're blindly following AI, just doing what it says and tells you, because everyone else could be doing the same thing. And I think you've got to think of it as a multiplier. If you can think of AI as a multiplier to your own strengths, your own creativity, your own work ethic, whatever it is, AI can help multiply that. That's why, like, lately, we've been posting a lot more content, not because we've created more content, but because we've used AI to repurpose content in so many different ways that people think, wow, you guys are creating way more content now. And it's good stuff. And it's like, no, actually we're not. We're creating the same amount that we have been, historically. It's just that now we're using AI to repurpose more of it and repackage it and whatever. So I think that's the way you've got to look at it, is a way to be a multiplier for what you're good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Super interesting, though, that all these statistics were really interesting today. And yeah, I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the future as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, good stuff. Well, yep. So really interesting topics there with ServiceNow's acquisition of an AI tool, AI outthinking boards. And now next, we're going to get into our first guest, which is Vladimer Botsvadze, who's going to be on to talk about AI trends in marketing and strategy in particular. We're going to talk about marketing, personal branding, and just general business strategy and how AI is affecting those things. So your boardroom AI conversation was a really relevant one, Darian, because that's going to segue nicely into the conversation with Vladimer. So we'll have him on the show here in just a second to talk about that. And then later in the show, after Vladimer's conversation, we'll get into a conversation around the German retailer Lidl and how they completely bombed their SAP implementation. They spent $600 million on SAP software that they're still not using. So we'll talk about that failure, what it means to you, and how you can avoid that same type of failure in that case study. So we'll get to that later in the show. We've got a lot more to cover, but first we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
Just tell me what you've got to say to me. I've been waiting for so long to hear the truth.
If you are involved in any sort of digital transformation or business change initiative, you'll want to download the Digital Transformation Report. With its comprehensive overview of business and technology trends and best practices, this report is a must-have guide for any transformation project or executive team. Download this free report by visiting Third Stage Consulting at thirdstage-consulting.com. You can also visit our website to learn more about us or download independent reports, videos, and other best practices. Again, visit thirdstage-consulting.com today to learn how you can take your transformation to the third stage of success.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 217. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday by going to transformationgroundcontrol.com. The show is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, which is an independent consulting firm that helps clients with their digital transformation journeys, and produced by Major Tom Productions. So our next guest here, our first guest, I should say, is Vladimer Botsvadze. He's a analyst with the U.S. Artificial Intelligence Institute. He's actually, he's an advisor to the U.S. AI Institute, and he's also an advisor to other AI-related boards that I'll let him describe in more detail. He's an AI thought leader and influencer. He's very well known. He's got a great following on YouTube and LinkedIn, and among other platforms. And he's going to be with us here to talk about how AI is being used in marketing and strategy. So with all that being said, Vladimer, thanks for being here today.
Hi, Eric. It is a delight to be a guest on your podcast. Many thanks for the invitation. Excited to share my actionable insights with your global
Absolutely. I
audience
appreciate
today.
having you here. It's the first time you and I have had a chance to do this sort of sit-down interview. So thanks for being here today. Maybe just to start, though, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and just what you do.
Yeah, it is a great. Thank you, Eric. I have more than 15 years of international experience with a proven technical or guiding executive top roles. I like to initiate change, drive growth, and position brands as market leaders in their industries. I'm recognized as one of the world's leading digital marketing and AI keynote speakers, thought leaders, advisory board members, mentors, and internet personalities. I have enjoyed a remarkable career as a top of technology industry, and I continue to play a pivotal role in maximizing top brand success. I have been recognized as #1 global marketing thought leader by Think360. I'm also among top 20 global AI thought leaders, and also among top 25 generative AI thought leaders by Think360. I currently serve on the advisory board for the United States AI Institute, Data Science Institute, and Cybersecurity Institute. I'm also a mentor at Techstars, founder Catalyst in Saudi Arabia, and also Techstars Detroit, powered by JP Morgan. I also judge for the Webby Awards, and I'm an associate member of International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. I'm also a keynote speaker for Kruger Con in London, also a mentor at Abu Dhabi SME Hub. I have built my personal brand from scratch from 2014 to 2020 without generative AI tools. So I went from 0 followers to 57,000 followers on Twitter X. I have sent more than 130,000 tweets. I was connecting emotional intelligence. EQ was a backbone of my growth. So I built my community. I built my emotional connection. So as I built my robust personal brand on Twitter, that also allowed me to build a robust network on LinkedIn. So those people who supported my journey on Twitter also supported me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and the rest of the channels. And I also built my website since 2015, vladimerbotsvadze.com. And if you Google digital marketing keynote speaker, my website is on page 1, because I have built my personal brand from my heart, not my head. So building from heart is what has made all the difference. So I won many awards. I was recognized #4 internet marketing guru by Global Gurus in 2023, alongside James Clear, Neil Patel, Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm among the world's top 21 artificial intelligence speakers by AI Speakers Agency, alongside Sam Altman. Also among top 25 digital transformation influencers by Sperity, top 30 transformation leaders of the year by Exelion magazine. Also among top 100 retail influencers by Wrestling Retail. I think I have more than 40 recommendations on LinkedIn, more than 32,000 connections, outstanding track record. I have been featured in Success magazine in January, February issue, and I think I have been going from strength to strength. I have been also featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, Business Insider, Wired, Techeo, and I'm a candidate even to win the world's most prestigious awards, and I truly take great pride in my work.
Yeah, sounds like you sound very passionate about what you do, and that's how I found you. Actually, was on social media and watching some of the videos of you speaking, and
yes, thank you so much. It means a lot. It means a lot to be discovered, to be seen, to be heard. So I think standing out is one of the biggest advantages and achievements in marketing.
Yeah, and so that's a good point. With today's conversation, we'll probably cover not just AI in general, which I know a lot of people are talking about AI now, but more specifically, we'll talk about AI in the world of marketing and personal branding, but also we'll talk about it in the context of emotional intelligence. And so we'll try to bring in some of the human factors as well. Just to kind of build on what you were just saying, Vladimer, what are, how did you get into AI? Like, AI wasn't a thing, I assume, back when you were first starting your career, but
Yeah, my storytelling, my passion. So I moved. I come from Republic of. So I was dreaming about experiencing the Western world. So when I was 18, I moved to the United States with on a J1 visa. So I got a week training in on the outskirts in Washington D.C. in Silver Spring. So once I completed my trainings, I was sent with my colleague to work in Menezes, like a 25 minutes from drive from Washington D.C. So I got my first job in the United States. That's why my journey has been special, and I'm one of the most like interviewed and published people worldwide because of this. That I have set the ball rolling in the United States. That has had like a snowball effect on my career journey. So when I worked in Menezes for 2 months. Actually, I used to see a Blockbuster store in my neighborhood, 2006. So they did not buy Netflix for $50 million, And so then I moved to New York City, the best melting pot in the world. So I started seeing the world faster, easier, clearer. And of course, when you move to New York City with an empty CV, you realize that it is very important to build your personal brand. So I have started pushing self-education. I was spending so much time at New York City Public Library. I followed Warren Buffett's advice to start reading like 400, 500 pages a day. So daily consistent reading built my knowledge. And I think it's very important nowadays to be more information smart, not book smart, because so much is changing nowadays. So I always keep my finger on the pulse of the latest news. And I think so then I moved. I returned to my country. I completed my bachelor's degree in computer engineering. Then I was enrolled at university on like a master's in economics. And in 2009, I moved to London. So the best of both worlds, like United States and the UK, these countries played a big role in my success. So I studied in close to Greenwich I was in the right place at the right time with right people, and I started building my personal brand from 2010 in London, and of course in 2014 I also attended a conference in Dubai. I understood the importance of personal branding, and I instantly hit the ground running on Twitter, and I started creating content that was in my followers' best interest. So I went from 0 followers to 57,000 followers in 6 years. In 2015, I was recognized as number 65 B2B marketing influencer by Analytica. I was among top 100 virtual reality influencers. In 2018, among top 100 digital transformation influencers. So in 2019, I was recognized number 6 global AI thought leader by Think360, which is the first open platform for global thought leaders. So in 2020, I was among top in 2020 number 1 global marketing thought leader. In the last 6 years, I was among top 10 worldwide in AI by Think360. So in 2022, I joined advisory board of the United States Artificial Intelligence Institute. And I think I'm also among the world's top 21 AI speakers because I was creating great content, Eric. I think content creation was a backbone of my growth. So I have told my stories through YouTube videos, like my tweets, my blog posts, every kind of content. As you also do a great job with content creation. I also have done the same. I told my stories. I was discovered. I was seen. I was heard. So now more than 150 global media interviews, advisory board of the United States AI Institute. I also collaborate with Gartner because I was invited as a judge at Gartner Digital Marketing and Communication Awards in 2023 in London. And I think I have truly, it was like a hockey stick kind of growth in my career because of my Twitter, you know. Twitter is like Twitter has prepared me for the entrepreneurial journey. That's why it's special. So social media is a reactionary business. It's all about listening and responding. So you need to prioritize this two-way communication with your consumers to win in the long term. You know?
Makes sense. And that's an interesting backstory. And I'm curious though, with all the the way you've built your personal brand and the way you've sort of emerged on the AI scene in the last decade, how have you seen AI change the world of marketing? You know, what are some of the biggest ways you've seen AI transform the way marketing, how marketing works?
Yeah, you know, marketing, you know, I have never said this about internet, about social media, but has changed marketing forever, Eric, you know, because nowadays, as Gartner predicts, more than 50% of internet content is due to be generated by artificial intelligence. And I think, but you know, I think nowadays it's much easier to create great content. AI levels up, levels a playing field. It gives everyone new competency. So it's all about taking massive action to create great content, to make yourself conspicuous, to connect with audiences in meaningful ways. And I think whoever takes massive action wins, you know. So, for example, we have ChatGPT 3 billion monthly website visitors, more than 3 billion. Just imagine that AI, ChatGPT is taking the world by storm, you know. And because ChatGPT had like 1 million users in 5 days, it is the most revolutionary technology. It is as clear as day. So I think AI and generative AI is used extensively in content creation, in listening to consumers, analyzing consumers' data. Even it helps you when it comes to optimize advertisements. But I think that advertising is going away because we are in the streaming economy nowadays, and no ads, Amazon Prime no ads, Disney Plus no ads, then podcast no ads. So consumers are willing to pay more not to consume ads, you know. So more than two-thirds of marketing is happening without brands because customers control the marketing process. Eric, not brands and marketers no longer control the marketing process. So customers tell their stories, you know. And I think it's very important to satisfy our consumers, and it's very important to respect consumers' time and not to bombard them with ads all the time, you know.
Yeah. So you're sort of touching on this point of you haven't used the word yet, I don't think, but authenticity. You know, how do you remain authentic in your personal branding and your marketing efforts in this day and age of AI? How do you keep that human connection in this world of AI?
You know, I think brands need to prioritize transparency, human connection, and the responsible use of AI. You know, and I think I love the quote of Professor Philip Kotler, who said that that marketing is all about is a combination of psychology, sociology, and anthropology. So marketing is all about human. But nowadays, marketers are focused on algorithms, AI, automation, and they forget human connection, you know. So as for example, marketing is all about human. We need to connect with our consumers in meaningful ways. For example, but only 2% tiny minority of open-minded entrepreneurs realize the importance of personal branding, for example. Elon Musk is very smart, out-of-box thinkers. That's why, for example, if you from the vantage point of the present, Tesla has become dominant in automotive industry in the last 15 years without an advertising department, because Elon Musk was able to respond to consumers, Tesla's owners' questions in real time. So Elon improved Tesla's product in real time by connecting with entrepreneurs, with Tesla's owners in real time. It is very important because I don't think that you know anybody from Mercedes-Benz, BMW, General Motors, where their executives directly interact with consumers. I don't know anybody, but because they still depend on backward-looking advertising. So for example, Mercedes-Benz spends $945 per car on advertising, and I think Tesla spent like a couple of millions of dollars on advertising 2023 and 2024. But from 2010 to 2022, I mean, Tesla spent $0 on advertising because Elon Musk has more than like 200 million followers on X, Twitter. So Tesla has never needed like an advertising department because a personal a personal brand has become a company brand, Eric. It is
Yeah.
very clear, and I think as the power was shifting dramatically from Wall Street, Madison Avenue, big advertising agencies, and big corporations to human beings. Nowadays, everyone has a voice, everyone has a reaction, and more than 62% of Fortune 500 brands have disappeared since 2000 because they did not adapt to the reality of the marketplace. So whoever is open-minded, whoever is nimble, whoever operates like a startup, they win in the long term. So Elon Musk is open-minded. He has a feedback loop. He's in the listening business. So I think that the most innovative and consumer-centric companies are in the listening business. I think Tesla prioritizes consumers. Elon Musk puts consumers first. So as for example, as of December 2024, Tesla's market share was $1.4 trillion, whereas Toyota's market share was $231 billion. Just imagine that Tesla is like six times bigger than Toyota because of personal brand communication. So I think many brands did not adapt to the reality of the marketplace, and so their executives did not humanize their brand. So it is very important to humanize your brand, to show your heart, to show your smile, to show your face, to show your passion, and to show your compassion. And we need to be givers and takers. So consumers love entrepreneurs and founders who give more than they take. So Elon Musk always has been in the listening business, and it is very important just to have a feedback loop and to directly communicate with your consumers. And regarding answer your question, I think brands need to prioritize, as I mentioned, transparency, human connection, and brands should openly communicate when they are using AI to create content or interact with customers. For example, if a chatbot is used to provide customer service or an AI algorithm, it is recommended recommending products. Companies should let consumers know. Transparency helps build trust because consumers can appreciate when technology is used to improve their experience without feeling manipulated, And I think human touch, as I mentioned, that Elon Musk prioritizes and epitomizes human touch. When AI can generate content, human experts should guide tone, messaging, and ensure that it aligns with companies' values.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it is interesting. It's an interesting use case of personal branding, and I assume he used AI or uses AI now in his marketing and personal branding efforts, given his role in the AI world. But it is interesting how Tesla is just one example of a company that used that personal brand to really get themselves on the map and overcome some of these incumbents, or overtake some of these incumbents that have the advantage of longer tenure.
Tesla. I agree with you, Eric, because Tesla has become a $1 trillion company because of personal branding. So if anybody disregards consumer personal branding, they are left behind,
But I think regardless of politics and regardless of what you think of Elon Musk personally, he does have a strong personal brand, and that's hard to deny as far as just his reach and his influence on his own brands, but also on society in general. So, I'm curious to hear from the audience too. Actually, as we're getting through this discussion, I'd love to hear how you're using AI. If you're using AI for your personal branding or marketing efforts, love to hear your examples or kind of your experience with AI, or if you haven't used it yet, I'd love to hear that too. So if you don't mind, just drop in the chat. I'd love to pull up some comments here on how you're seeing AI being used in your personal branding and marketing efforts. But speaking of branding though, Vladimer, what's your advice for professionals that are trying to build a personal brand in this world of AI? Given that you talked about taking massive action, now is the time to take massive action to create content and to really leverage this level playing field that we're all on now, which I totally agree. AI is allowing us all to be content creators at scale. So what advice do you have to professionals that are trying to build their personal brand, and how can we sort of not dumb it down, but what are some actionable first steps we can take if we're overwhelmed by the whole idea of creating content or using AI?
I think it's all about starting small, building gradually, showing your personality, and being consistent, and to show gratitude. Because I think as Twitter has put me on a global map, emotional intelligence has played a big role in my success. So I was showing gratitude every time someone was sharing my posts, like leaving comments or liked my tweets. So I think these interactions is two-way communication. As social media is a reactionary business, it's all about listening and responding. And so many brands went out of business because they did not adapt to the reality of the marketplace, and they continued to continue advertising or backward-looking advertising. I think, as for example, when they were transitioning from primary radio society to the primary television society, 4 biggest beer brands collapsed in the United States because they were writing copy for the radio and they were disregarding television, and so I think it was a great example. So as many professionals are hesitant to build their personal brands, they are questioning, whereas open-minded people are taking massive action. They creating content. As I did not have a professional camera in 2019, but I had my iPhone X. I recorded 45 videos, uploaded to YouTube, and I was talking about from a influencer's position about regarding building my community and personal branding and marketing and emotional connection. So I have built my emotional connection. It's very important to build emotional connection with your subscribers, audiences. So and for example, as Sam Altman said, that 95% of marketers are due to be replaced by generative AI, and 5%, Eric, is your personal brand. 5%, So I'm still sought after. I'm in high demand. I'm one of the most requested speakers, mentors, advisory board members, and my hard work from 2014 to 2020, as I built my personal brand from my heart. I put 150% day in and day out. I was consistent. I put my eggs in different baskets. And I not only depended on LinkedIn or Twitter, but I also built my audience on Instagram, on a Facebook page, on Tumblr, WordPress, Blogger, Medium, So I think I have taken massive action. I was patient. I was able to see the glass half full rather than half empty. Optimism. I believe that optimistic people create brighter future. So I have created brighter future with my community. And of course, if you check out my LinkedIn, I have 41 LinkedIn recommendations. And success is not accidental. People succeed because they are passionate about what they do. They love what they do, and I think my storytelling also sets me apart. Is what sets me apart, and also long-term thinking. So I reinvested my last dollar into my website, and I think my sacrifice, my passion, my commitment, dedication paid off.
Absolutely. It seems to be so. I mean, you have a bigger following than most people do. Just a few more comments from social media here from people watching us live here. Daniel on YouTube says Elon Musk just keeps getting me excited about the next industrial revolution, human touch plus AI. Just on a personal note, we were getting some personal appearance advice for both of us. Someone from YouTube says, if both of you went bald, you would look younger. Just love, brother. So I hadn't been told that, but I am always trying to look for ways to look younger. So thank you for the advice there. Perry said, this is an interesting concept. I want to ask your opinion on, Vladimer. This is from Perry on LinkedIn. Perry says, I learned a lot of AI products, but I do not want to use it. Most OpenAI stole from creators. And that last part is really important. I want to maybe unpack that a little bit. What are your thoughts on that as far as if we are content creators and we're creating thought leadership, we're maybe even creating some intellectual property that's worth value, and now we're using AI and training AI, now AI is learning from us. How do you balance that sort of need for human knowledge-based competitive advantage versus AI kind of leveling that playing field and taking that knowledge and making it somewhat of a commodity? How do you balance that? How do we navigate that?
I think automation excels at handling repetitive and time-consuming tasks, such as like answering frequently asked questions, processing simple orders, or managing routine customer inquiries. By automating these aspects, companies free up human aspects human aspects, and companies free up human aspects to focus on more complex, high-value interactions that require empathy, creative problem solving, and personalized attention. So I think you need to ensure that 24/7 accessibility without losing the human touch. I think it's very important to prioritize human touch, and automation can make it easier to provide 24/7 customer support, but that does not mean that customers should always interact with bots. So I think it is very important just to build a community and to have a shared experiences with your consumers. Shared experiences. I think it's very important to bring consumers and audiences together, and where consumers make bonds, strong bonds. As for example, Harley Davidson owners group, so 700,000 riders go to Sturgis in South Dakota to attend festival together. So they are proud of owning motorcycles. And what is a mission of Harley Davidson? Harley Davidson's mission is to make their motorcycle owners' dreams come true through motorcycle lifestyle. So they make strong bonds in the community. So it doesn't matter if even it is like a Harley Davidson, or even I build my personal brand on Twitter or X. It's very important to bring consumers together where they make strong bonds. So if you have your podcast, your audience, they don't know each other, but in community they do know each other. So it is a big difference. So it's as I brought together my followers, I was showing gratitude, and my followers used to make friendships in the community on my X Twitter. It has translated to my success. So I think it is very important just to build trust, Eric, to build trust, So I only work with people who I trust. And so even if they break all records in technology or marketing, and if I don't trust them, I don't work with them, So it is very important to be authentic, to build your trust, to have this two-way communication, to create great content, and to position your company or personal brand as a media company, So it's all about enlightening, informating, inspiring audiences through your insights. So as I mentioned, that people who create information, they will be replaced by AI. But as I create insights, I will not.
I'm here with Vladimer talking about AI strategy and in marketing and business in general. We've got a lot more to cover. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control. My name is Eric Kimberling, and I'm the CEO and founder of Third Stage Consulting. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to invite you to learn a little bit more about Third Stage Consulting, who we are and what we do. I've included a link to a video right here that describes Third Stage in a bit more detail. It talks about our story, our history, our philosophy, our clients, our service offerings, and that sort of thing. But in general, what Third Stage Consulting does is we're an independent and tech-agnostic consulting provider. We help clients through their entire digital transformation life cycles, beginning with digital strategy, software evaluation and selection, all the way through and including implementation planning, implementation readiness, and the actual implementation itself. We're technology agnostic, so we only represent our clients' best interests. We do not represent software vendors. But having said that, we work very closely with software vendors, all the leading players that you can imagine we've worked with, both in helping clients evaluate and select them, but also in helping clients implement those solutions as well. So we have a very broad, objective, agnostic view of the market that is meant to really represent your interest as you go through your digital transformation. I also encourage you to scan this QR code right here to get access to our resource center. This resource center has a ton of information, a ton of ebooks that are free. You have access to top 10 software rankings, playbooks for how to make your project more successful, guides to change management, YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff that are going to help you through your digital transformation. So I encourage you to scan this QR code to get access to those resources. And please feel free to reach out to me directly to brainstorm ideas about your project. Even if it's just informally, you want to bounce around some ideas and get some informal advice, I'd be happy to spend some time with you. So feel free to reach out to me. I've included my contact information below. You can also find it in the description field of this video as well.
The last thing you want to have happen is for your digital transformation to end up in court. I've been doing this for 20 years and I have seen everything. My name is Marcus Harris. I'm a software and technology attorney focusing my practice on drafting and negotiating software-related contracts and litigating software disputes across the country. Feel free to reach out to us at taftlaw.com. We'd love to talk to you about the litigation process and what you can expect.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 217. My name is Eric Kimberling, here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com, and you can also subscribe on your favorite platform by going to transformationgroundcontrol.com. I'm here with Vladimer Botsvadze. We're talking about AI in marketing and business strategy. Let's jump back into the conversation. Just as a comment here, I had asked the question earlier about how you, the audience, are using AI in your marketing or personal branding efforts. Someone, I don't see the name here, but someone on LinkedIn says using it for internal enablement materials on solution sets and support artifacts. So that's a good use case. Thanks for sharing how you're using AI right now. Here's another comment from, actually a comment from Krishna, or a question here from Krishna on LinkedIn. He says, I see students start using AI to finish their projects instead of thinking. Do you believe these trends help them to improve their creativity? So how do you see AI? Is AI going to replace our ability to think critically or creatively, or how do you see those two intersecting?
Well, it is very dismal that global education is blocking generative AI tools. It is a big mistake. As for example, 15 years ago, they were blocking social media, and everyone wanted to regulate social media. So social media has created so many renowned entrepreneurs, influencers. They have taken massive action. They connected and they have greatly benefited from Twitter. And for example, Twitter is like a cocktail party for the business world. And I think it is very dismal that there is a great quote by Lev Tolstoy, who said that everyone thinks of changing the world, but nobody thinks of changing himself. So change is hard, Eric. Change is hard. So I think the world is faster because of the internet. The world is faster because of the internet. And when I check out educational programs, most of programs are outdated and obsolete, So I would not even waste my money on education programs nowadays. So you can build your business without your degrees, education degrees. So what was nowadays social media and generative AI open the floodgate to business owners to help them maximize their success. So whether you are a student and AI becomes your thinking partner, and I think it is very important just to, I think ChatGPT 5.0's IQ is somewhere between 170, 180. And like Albert Einstein's IQ was between 155 and 170, So just imagine that ChatGPT 5.0 is much smarter than Albert Einstein was, So, Sam Altman said that nowadays it is much easier for anybody to create unicorns because of generative AI tools like ChatGPT, So you need to strike while the iron is hot and make hay while the sun shines, and to capitalize all these AI tools that are available at our fingertips to create great content, to help us have great ideas for our startups, or even to build our personal brands, or even whatever tasks we have. Is like ChatGPT is like a good Samaritan that helps us move forward.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if you can take your own human intelligence and creativity and combine it with AI, I feel like that's going to be the real powerful combination. Anyone can use AI, like you said, but if you view AI as not just something that levels the playing field, which I agree it does, but where you can have an advantage is if you say, I'm not only going to use AI, but I'm going to use AI to be a multiplier of my own intelligence and creativity. And that's the way I try to think about it.
Yeah. Great point, Eric, because, someone bought like 5,000 horses before the day Henry Ford creates a car. He lost because he was thinking that horses were not going to be replaced by cars, but horses were replaced by cars.
Yeah. And it probably,
So I think anybody should adapt.
probably,
Anybody should adapt to the reality of the marketplace. And Henry Ford said that if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have answered faster horses. So speed is a currency of business.
yeah, that's a great point. I know Steve Jobs had the same philosophy. He didn't wait for people to say they wanted an iPhone or a smartphone. He just created it and had the vision. But you talk about Henry Ford, and I imagine like going
Yes, exactly.
You go as far back as Henry Ford, I imagine it was probably a similar disruption where people just had trouble understanding, why would we want an automobile? We're thinking about it from the context of horses. Automobile probably didn't make sense at the time, I would imagine, until people started to try it, get comfortable with it. They saw the advantages, and then, obviously it reached a tipping point of adoption. I think that's what's interesting about AI is that happens so fast. I mean, the ChatGPT just hit mainstream adoption like just overnight. Amazing to watch how fast.
Yes,
AI is.
Eric. It is interesting to mention that 92% of Fortune 500 brands use ChatGPT, like Snapchat, PricewaterhouseCoopers, big brands. So I think. But I was reading that companies save like $70,000 per month using generative AI.
Yeah, great point. We're getting a ton of questions on social media or on the various platforms here, and I want to get to these. You mentioned Sam Altman earlier, and here's a comment about Sam Altman. It's a not so nice comment about Sam Altman, but I'm going to skip that part and get to the really important question in this comment here. This is from Perry on LinkedIn. Perry says 99% of humans are going to be unemployed. Do you think, so my question for you, Vladimer, is do you think AI is going to result in mass unemployment? And, even though it is creating opportunity on one hand, is it going to create a net negative effect because people will become unemployed and it might automate too much of our jobs? What are your thoughts?
Yes, millions of jobs are due to be replaced by artificial intelligence. Only sustainable competitive advantage in this age of AI and automation is building a personal brand and building emotional connection with the world. Because if you have done your work to build your personal brand, you will not be replaced by generative AI, and you will continue to be sought after in high demand because this world loves picking your brain because of this emotional connection. But if copywriters, bloggers, and marketers, and the rest of professionals who have never built their work to build their personal brands, they will be replaced by generative AI, because it is a big difference between being known versus not being known. So I'm known, I'm in a catbird seat, I have done my work, I have built my personal brand from my heart. When this world was denigrating and belittling personal branding, social media, like content creation, I was working with a vengeance, and I was surrounded by game changers and champions, on Twitter. So I was followed, for example, by Grant Cardone and tycoon entrepreneurs. So I realized that it was all about taking massive action, being optimistic, and if you surround yourself 5 people, you are going to be 6. So surrounding is very important. And I think, as I mentioned, that millions of people are due to be replaced by generative AI. And the only way you can stand out is building your personal brand. So you can build your website through Mixo.io in 3 minutes without coding. Like you have Perplexity, you have like a ChatGPT, like Midjourney, and the rest of generative AI tools available at your fingertips. And I think it's much easier now to create graphics or blog posts or social media posts. I think that it is predicted that 90% of internet content will be generated by artificial intelligence. So as you show your heart, your smile, your face, your compassion, your passion, that is a way how to stand out and not to be replaced by AI,
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Grant Cardone, because when you were talking about massive action earlier, I was thinking about Grant Cardone because he uses that term a lot. He talks about massive action to reach 10x results. And actually, Grant Cardone is a client of Third Stage Consulting, so I've done consulting work for them. So hello to the Grant
I love Grant's philosophy, and Grant still follows me on Twitter X, and I love his philosophy. That it's all about domination, not competition, because 99% people compete and only 1% to dominate. So if you want to dominate, you need to take massive action. And and to sacrifice and to work with a vengeance, you know.
Yeah. And speaking of personal branding, he's one of the more brilliant people when it comes to personal branding, and he's built quite the following.
Absolutely. And I love his story. Always inspired by watching Grant Cardone. He's a God's gift to this world. And I believe that our world has so many disruptors, innovators, and groundbreakers because of Grant Cardone's impact, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting to some more social media comments here. This is from Bones on YouTube. Bones says AI and automation will take all the tariff manufacturing jobs. So that clearly is a fear that I think a lot of people have, is that AI may take our jobs. And I think, one thing too that I wanted to get your take on just real quickly, Vladimer, because I know you're an avid reader, but I don't know if you've read Innovator's Dilemma from Clayton Christensen, and the whole concept of creative destruction, and how you can embrace these changes. You can either fight these sorts of changes, these sorts of disruptions that are happening with AI, or you can embrace it and be part of the change. And I think that's a really important thing to think about. And I think it's a valid fear to be worried that AI might take our jobs, particularly if we're in marketing or if we're a copywriter, or we have some sort of knowledge-based job that AI could easily replace. It's easy to be afraid, but it's also easy to think, but you can also convert that into, well, what can I do to use AI to be better at what I do, to make myself more invaluable? And you talked about creating a personal brand as maybe one of those strategies. What else can people be doing to embrace AI and not be afraid of it, but embrace it to make themselves better in their careers and make their businesses better?
I think, as I mentioned, Eric, that it is very important to build your personal brand from your heart, not from your head, because many people build their personal brands and run their businesses from their heads, but only few people run their businesses from their hearts. So we need to start running our businesses from our hearts. And emotional intelligence contributed 80% to my success. Also self-education. So I think YouTube has become our university. We need to become lifelong learners. We need to be curious on a daily basis. We need to become more open-minded. And I still believe that open-mindedness is my biggest strength. Even someone who is ranked #1 in the world can learn a great deal from other people. So we should never say that we are smartest in the room. No, we need to have beginner's mindset. We need to be optimistic, and optimistic people create brighter future. Of course, everyone agrees that artificial intelligence is like electricity for the 21st century. So it is a most revolutionary technology, and I think what was limited, restricted like 20 and 30 years ago, no longer limited. And what is nowadays marketing today? Marketing is all about supply, demand, attention, and storytelling. So we need to tell our stories. We need to lifetime value and retention. So everything is all about lifetime value, retention, developing relationship with consumers. So we need to develop relationships, not only retain, also develop, So it is so, as I prioritize my followers, human relationships and personal branding is a be all and end all nowadays. And even Tesla's example show that a personal brand has become a company brand. It is very important just to connect with consumers in meaningful ways, never automate marketing, because marketing is all about human. So human touch wins,
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give a speaking of personal stories, and maybe another use case of how I'm using AI personally in running our business. I mean, one thing we've done is we've embraced AI, not just in a service offering to help our clients with AI, but also in terms of how we use AI. And one thing that I'm doing, and I'm trying to do right now as we speak within Third Stage Consulting, is we're actually rolling out an AI tool that's going to automate a lot of what we do. So when we're meeting with clients, for example, and gathering requirements and defining priorities and defining change impacts and how the organization is going to look in the future, we're using AI tools to help document and capture some of those discussions. And theoretically, that will hurt us because in the short term, because that will reduce our revenue because it's less time it's taking us to do the things that we bill our clients for. So on one hand, you'd say, well, why would you embrace AI, if it's going to hurt your revenue short term? But on the other hand, the way I look at it is, well, I can either ignore it or I can embrace it and say, by using AI, it's going to allow us to build better relationships with our clients and focus more on client problems rather than documentation and some of the things that, are more inwardly focused on creating deliverables. We can now focus more on the relationship and let AI create the deliverables for us. So I'm confident that over time we'll make more money because clients will see more value in what we do, and they'll be more likely to hire us. But you kind of have to think through, what are the long-term implications, and can you realistically ignore it? And I don't think you can ignore it. So the question becomes.
So I also wanted to add, Eric, that a personalization at scale. AI allows marketers to gather and analyze massive amounts of data from various sources in real time, and using this data, AI can create highly tailored marketing campaigns that deliver relevant content, products, or services to individuals rather than using a one-size-fits-all approach. So this level of personalization boosts customer engagement, improves conversion rates, creates more meaningful relationships between brands and consumers. So AI-driven tools such as recommendation engines, chatbots, predictive analytics, and automated content generation are reshaping how businesses interact with customers by delivering more timely, relevant, and personalized experiences across channels. So, for example, platforms like Netflix and Amazon use AI to suggest content and the product based on the past behavior, significantly improving user experience and driving sales. AI is enabling marketers to make smarter decisions. So I think all in all, brands truly take advantage of AI capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting comment from Socrates on LinkedIn. Socrates says, as we increasingly rely on AI for routine work, allowing humans to focus on complex problem solving, what strategies can we employ to prevent the erosion of fundamental knowledge, which is crucial for tackling those very complexities? So how do we prevent AI from making us less smart as humans so that we can, at the very least, keep up with AI, but ideally be a manager of these AI tools?
I think when it comes to repetitive tasks, AI does a great job when it comes to replacing repetitive tasks. So we can prioritize like a strategic tasks. So we save time, we improve business efficiency, we make smarter decisions, and we reduce costs. So as I mentioned that we reduce costs and not hiring copywriters and bloggers, it means that AI helps us reduce costs. It means that copywriters and bloggers are losing their jobs. But when it comes to knowledge, right? What worked 2-3 months ago no longer works in this day and age, because so much is changing nowadays. So it is very important to be information smart, because so much is changing like grease lightning.
Right.
So we should never rest on our laurels. We always look to our laurels. As for example, I think one of the top skills according to the World Economic Forum is lifelong learning. So in this day and age, it's very important just to be a lifelong learner. And my CV truly epitomizes lifelong learning, how much you can achieve through building your personal brand, creating great content, storytelling, being sought after, and from nothing you can create something. So self-motivation, Eric, is very important. If you are not driven, if you are not committed, if you are not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you can't be winning in this age of AI, but you need to driven, motivated, like you need to be like a ball of fire nowadays, just to learn something for every person. So open-mindedness is what sets you apart.
Absolutely. Before I pull up the next audience question, I want to share with the audience too another reference material that might help you in your AI journey. It's a guide to AI strategy and implementation. If that's something that is of interest to you, you can download that by scanning the QR code right here on the top left side of your screen. I'll also include a link to it in the show notes or the description field below. So scan this QR code. You can get our guide to AI strategy and implementation. If you're looking for more information about AI trends and strategies you can deploy within your organization, I'll leave that up here for a second as we're getting into these next questions here. But I do want to get to another question here. This is from Darian on LinkedIn. And Darian says, you mentioned that Tesla succeeded because of Elon Musk's personal brand in the absence of traditional advertising. Do you think most companies can realistically replicate this model, or is the kind of founder-led brand building something only a select few can pull off?
Thanks to Darian for this great question. I think not only Elon Musk epitomizes personal branding, also Brian Chesky of Airbnb disrupted hospitality brands, because in the last 15 years, Brian built a robust community on Twitter X where he asks questions, improves product in real time, communicating with Airbnb's users. Daniel Ek, co-founder of Spotify, disrupted the music industry through building his personal brand through X, Twitter, So these open-minded entrepreneurs, Emily Weiss, Eric, co-founder of Glossier, started as a blogger, built like a $1 billion cosmetic brand through blogging, because she started as a blogger. She used to work for Vogue magazine. She started as a blogger. She was treating blog readers as friends. She built a community, and nowadays 60% of consumers expect to be acknowledged by brands. 60%. So as Emily and her marketing team put their audiences and fans first, and her marketing team was interviewing the biggest fans from Instagram and the rest of the channels, social media channels, for their website. And if you visit Glossier's website, you will see on the homepage that they show real fans on their homepage. That is how Glossier became a $1 billion brand, through putting customers and biggest fans
first.
It
makes them the centerpiece of the content creation, the customers themselves and the advocates.
Yes. So user generated content is the best kind of marketing nowadays. User generated content. So whoever builds a robust community around shared experiences, whoever brings consumers and audiences, followers together, whoever cares, because I agree with Gary Vaynerchuk, who said that the care is the best marketing strategy. So you need to care about your consumers. So when you care, everything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit here, given this question that we just got on YouTube. This is from Daniel on YouTube. Daniel says, I would like to talk about AI and business strategy. Could AI create a new middle ground in business strategy, especially considering the many competing strategic frameworks? So how do you think AI, or does AI affect just general business strategy, whether we're talking marketing and personal branding or just general business strategy?
I think what I see nowadays is that, for example, in the next 1-3 years, the capabilities of AI, can create realistic text, images, and even videos, that are progressing rapidly. And tools like ChatGPT, for example, and DALL-E are reshaping content creation, So we could use AI generating hyper-realistic video content, personalized media at scale, tools that can craft deeply immersive storytelling experiences, So I think it is very important. For example, I love Amazon, for example, because Amazon is very consumer centric. So what are the 5 lessons every business can learn from Amazon? For example, first, being consumer centric, and because many brands are competitor centric, Eric, and boardroom centric. So it is very important to be consumer centric. As Glossier and Emily Weiss also, they have been very consumer centric. They built from blogging a $1 billion brand. Second lesson from Amazon, for example, is reinventing yourself, because many people, many brands stand still, they don't evolve, and they lose market share, they go out of business. So constant reinvention is has been one of the key drivers of Amazon. Third is being experimental. I love the quote by Jeff Bezos, who said that if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you are going to double your inventiveness. So the more experimental your brand is, the better. So the fourth lesson from Amazon is all about being patient, so we need to bear in mind that Rome was not built in a day, so we need to take one step at a time. And I think the last lesson from Amazon is all about thinking long term, because many brands and many people think about what happens in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, whereas Amazon thinks about what happens in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So as I started my a whole social media journey 11 years ago, and now I'm one of the leading marketing practitioners and thought leaders, and I have this privilege to be a guest on your amazing podcast, and I have my audience. It means that I have done my work. I was thinking long term. I have reinvented myself. I was audience centric. Of course, Amazon is consumer centric, but as I built my personal brand, I have been audience centric. I was very patient. I was experimental. I was sending a trial balloon, what was working, what was not working. I was seeing the glass half full rather than half empty. So if there are people who are not optimistic, of course you need to start seeing the glass half full. And I think it's also about reinvention, lifelong learning, and there are some other skills to be in the listening business. As I mentioned, that Elon Musk, Emily Weiss, Brian Chesky, Daniel Ek, the main disruptors in the last 15 years, they have been in the listening business. Of course, not everybody is going to be Elon Musk, and not everybody is going to have more than 200 million followers on X Twitter, but if I have more than 51,000 followers, authentic followers on X Twitter, because my cloud score was 58 in 2014, and it reached 80 in 2018, because I was posted more than 60 times on Twitter and the rest of the channels, because I was firing on all cylinders, and I was living and breathing results. So it is very important just to be a lifelong learner, to be curious, to show more resilience, because this whole journey is not a walk in the park. It's more like a zigzag, And so I think also there are some other skills like social influence, flexibility, agility. Speed is a currency of business. We need to have a beginner's mindset. And I think it is the greatest time in the mankind, human mankind, just to be successful nowadays, because content distribution across social media channels is free, whereas you pay for TV, you pay for radio, you pay for billboard, you pay for newspaper to advertise your product. So I think if you take some action across social media channels, I think the ROI will be huge and positive.
Just to close out and sort of wrap this all up, Vladimer, what is your long-term vision for the future of AI in marketing and business strategy? How do you see the next 2-3 years looking in the world of AI and business strategy, marketing strategy, all that stuff we've talked about?
Generative AI tools will continue to develop, because it's clear that 92% Fortune 500 brands use generative AI tools, and I think it's also taking the world by storm. So whoever massive action wins, and also I think we need to also use Claude. We need to use Midjourney on a daily basis. And I think graphic designers are due to lose their jobs as well, Eric. Graphic designers, because as also the World Economic Forum predicts that more than vast majority of graphic designers are due to lose their jobs. And I also think that that you need to build your website through Mixo.io, which is a remarkable website builder. So you can build your website without coding in 3 minutes. And Mixo.io has already built more than 3 million websites. 3 million websites, Eric. And I also think that generative AI content creation, decision making, boosting creativity and efficiency, agentic AI, will drive autonomous systems that make decisions and take actions without human intervention, enhancing customer service and operational processes. Automation, RPA, will expand to intelligent automation, improving efficiency and freeing up human for higher value tasks. For example, low-code and no-code development will enable non-technical users to build applications, accelerating innovation and reducing development times. And hyper-personalization will leverage AI and data analytics to deliver highly tailored customer experiences, driving loyalty and engagement. I believe that AI will revolutionize marketing and customer experience in the next decade. And primarily through generative AI tools, will empower brands to craft tailored messages, videos, even interactive experiences. By analyzing customer data in real time, AI will help brands anticipate needs and deliver content that is both relevant and timely. And this shift will make marketing more immersive with hyper-targeted campaigns, personalized journeys that enhance the overall customer experience, foster loyalty, drive deeper connections between brands and their audiences. Ultimately, AI will make marketing more creative, efficient, and customer-centric.
All right. Thanks again, Vladimer, for being here today. Thank you to the audience for the great questions, and thank you for your patience as we lost Wi-Fi there at the end of the conversation. We've got a lot more we're going to build on from that conversation, and we're also going to get into this Lidl SAP failure case study here later in the show. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I'm excited to announce the release of our 2025 Digital Transformation Report. It's available now on the Third Stage Consulting website, www.thirdstage-consulting.com. This report gives you an unbiased, technology-agnostic insight to help you optimize your organization's projects for success. Get your copy today using the QR code in front of me or on our website.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S/4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 217. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm here with Darian Chwialkowski. We just had Vladimer Botsvadze on the show to talk about AI in marketing and business strategy. What were some of your thoughts and takeaways from that conversation, Darian?
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I feel like he made a lot of great points. One of my favorite points he made, or I guess the boldest point I thought he made, was that he said that Tesla became a $1 trillion company, not because of advertising, but because of personal branding from Elon Musk. I mean, I just want to get, what is your take on this, Eric? What do you think Do you think like the average CEO should be doing this? I think of you honestly when he said this too, and your personal branding and how we grow your personal brand along with Third Stage too. So do you think this is something that just every average CEO is able to do? And how do you think that they should do it, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I know you asked that from the audience perspective during the interview, and he sort of answered it, but I think we could go into a lot more detail on that. I always struggle with this because sometimes I'm torn between how much marketing and content creation I do versus, the time I could be spending doing other things running the company. Fortunately, we've got a really good team, a really good executive team that handles a lot of that for me. So I don't have to do all the day-to-day stuff like I used to. And I can trust them to do their jobs and to handle a lot of what I used to do in that area. So, if you have that luxury, then yeah, you can, I think spending more time building that personal brand is really important. It's so hard for people though. I mean, it's really interesting because even here at Third Stage, getting people to do videos with me or to be on a podcast with me, podcasts they're usually pretty comfortable with, but our own team does not necessarily like or enjoy doing YouTube videos the way I do them. And so there's something daunting and overwhelming and different about it that I think is hard for a lot of people. So I'm not making excuses to not do it, but I'm just saying the reality of it is that a lot of CEOs either don't feel comfortable doing it or they feel like they don't have the time. And so I think if it's that they don't have the time, that one's a little bit easier to manage, I think, because there are things you can do to time box it and film in batches or create content in batches rather than feeling like every day I've got to go tweet 10 times or I've got to go create a YouTube video or a TikTok or whatever. Usually I create stuff in batches to where I do a bunch all at once and then I stop thinking about it and I don't think about it again until I do the next batch. And so, but people think like, oh, wow, you're creating stuff every day. And it the perception is different than what the reality is, or it can be different if you manage your time well. So I think executives can and should think about it that way. Of course, you need to have the right personality. I mean, Elon Musk, for whatever reason, resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people don't like him. Same with, he mentioned Grant Cardone as well. Grant Cardone is a big social media personality. A lot of people love him. He has a big cult following, but he also has haters as well. And his whole thing is that's okay. He likes having haters because it just gives him more exposure, and he's all about just getting attention. So even if it's negative attention, he'd rather have that than no attention at all. So you just have to look at your personality, your strengths. If you're a CEO and you're just not that type of person, or it just for whatever reason doesn't work, maybe there's someone else on your executive team or another leader within your company that you can use as a true thought leader. I think that's a lot different than the old days of going out and hiring a spokesperson or a video personality to represent your brand, because it's not authentic. And he talked a lot about the true personal branding and the stories and the human element, the human touch. All that stuff is really important, and you can't get that by hiring or outsourcing the content creation. So someone on your team should probably do it, and it's probably helpful to designate, whether it's you or one of your other peers or executives, designate that person, and then you've got to commit. I mean, you really do have to use the word massive action. I mean, you can't just do a couple videos, whenever you feel like it and expect it to get you anywhere. You've got to be, with so much noise and volume of content creation now, you have to be, you have to work harder to rise to the top or to get to stand out. So that'd be my advice. I don't know how realistic it is, but I think we're seeing more and more companies starting to think that way as far as creating these faces and personalities of the company or the brand.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Another thing that really stood out was when he made a very clear distinction between people that create information and then the people that create insight. How do you see organizations applying that mindset today? Are they using AI to enhance their team's creativity and intelligence, or are they still stuck thinking in like cost savings and automation?
Well, I think if they're smart, they'd be doing both. Because I think there's significant opportunity on both. You might argue that creativity, longer term, the creative side of things is probably where the most value is, because cost cutting, if you think about it, is sort of a one-time thing, and it can make you more efficient. But then once you've created that efficiency, assuming you don't get inefficient again, that's it, right? You've become a well-oiled machine, and that one-time benefit is done with, if you will. But the creative stuff, you know, the strategic stuff and the innovation, that's where the real value is going to be long term, because that's going to be what creates new products, new ideas, new services, new business models, especially if you take AI and combine it with your own creativity and knowledge and experience and innovation, things that AI can't replicate on its own. So I think it's going to make us all, it's going to force us all to be smarter, or at least the smarter people combined with AI are going to be the ones that succeed. The ones that are over dependent on AI without being smart, or there's really smart people that refuse to use AI. I think both those groups are going to be at a disadvantage in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question I have, and I think this point kind of resonated with what you just talked about for how much content is going out on your channel or Third Stage's channel, but Vladimer said he built his brand by posting sometimes 60 plus times a day at one point. His content wasn't perfect, he said, but it was experimental, and he was sending kind of these trial balloons is what he described. And I think this is a really different mindset than a lot of brands or companies have, that kind of like obsess over these perfect campaigns and needing every single detail to be super controlled. How do you help companies, especially some large legacy ones, embrace that kind of like test and learn social mindset without feeling like they're risking reputation?
That's a good question. A lot of companies struggle with that, especially the bigger, more conservative companies. They struggle with the old mindset of, I can't put anything out there until it's gone through certain levels of internal review. And then marketing gets involved and wants the branding to be perfect and the messaging to be perfect. And they ask people to redo content, and it just slows down the whole process. And meanwhile, you know, you've got people like me or other thought leaders in whatever industry out there that are just cranking stuff out without any filters, you know, and sometimes that backfires. I mean, I'll admit there's times where I put stuff out that's like, well, if I would have thought that through a little bit more, I might have not put that out, but that's pretty rare. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen, right? That, you know, if we had if you and others on our marketing team were more command and control and needing to review everything, you might have caught those things, but you also probably would have slowed down our ability to create as much content as we do, which gives us a competitive advantage and gets our name out there, and you know, gets us recognized by more people. So yeah, I think you've got to get out of that old school marketing mindset of getting the branding perfect, because that's how I was trained. I'm a marketing major from undergrad and university, and I was taught that it's about branding and perfection of communication, you know, the sort of that old school way of marketing. But with social media, YouTube, and the whole democracy that has become, or the way it's been, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this word, democratized, whatever. It's becoming a democracy with content creation and social media. So everyone can do it. Anyone can just open up an account and start cranking out content. So yeah, it totally changes everything.
And it's free to market your brand that way too. You don't have to do anything. So it's really interesting to kind of like, I think we always say like leveling the playing field. In some ways it does. Everybody has the same access to free platforms. So it's interesting.
Then it becomes about, you know, your personality, your knowledge, and how you present it. You know, then it becomes, you can use AI and you can use these free tools, but the ones that will have the real advantage are not only the ones that are going to work hard and create the content, but the ones that have unique angles or perspectives or personalities or whatever it is. So I think it's just finding that formula that works for you as a company is going to be the ones that win out in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, great conversation though.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation. He's very passionate about what he does, and I enjoyed having him on the show. I'd never interviewed him before. I'd watched his content before. I knew he was going to be a little bit harder to rein in. You know, once he gets going, he's rolling. But he did a nice job of kind of bringing it back to the topic at hand, and would love to have him back on at some point in the future. So thanks for the great audience questions as well. The last thing we want to cover in this episode here today is the big SAP failure at Lidl. And it might be pronounced little in some parts of the world, Lidl in other parts. I don't know. I got probably the biggest comment I got on this video, which we're going to play you a clip from this YouTube video. I think the biggest comment or the most common theme I heard was I pronounced the name wrong. So I apologize. I don't know. We did a lot of research on this because I wasn't sure either. Was it little or is it Lidl? I think in Germany they say Lidl, but in other parts of the world they say little, from what I understand. But regardless of how you pronounce the company name, the retailer's name, the lessons here remain the same. So we want to play this clip to learn about how they failed in their $600 million SAP implementation and what some of the lessons are that you can take away. So let's roll the clip and we'll take it from there. Very large organization. And in 2018, they went through an SAP implementation. They spent $600 million on this implementation, and it was a complete disaster. Before we jump into why this project failed, let's talk about why do we categorize this project as a failure. Well, first of all, and probably most obviously, the fact that they spent $600 million on the implementation, that in and of itself suggests that there's something probably wrong. I know Lidl is a big organization, but that seems excessive to spend $600 million on an SAP implementation. But perhaps even more damning is the fact that the project failed. They couldn't use the software the way it was deployed. And after spending $600 million on it, they abandoned the SAP system and reverted back to their legacy system. So by all measures, this qualifies as an unmitigated disaster. And so what I want to do in the rest of this video is talk about why the project failed and what some of the lessons are that you can take away from it. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to share a little bit of information about Third Stage Consulting and who we are. Third Stage Consulting Group is an independent, technology agnostic provider of consulting services to help clients through their digital transformations. We help with digital strategy and software selection, as well as implementation planning. And during implementation, we provide services related to program management, organizational change, business process improvement, as well as enterprise architecture. These are just some of the services we provide. We have offices in North America as well as Europe and Asia Pacific. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to check out our resource center, which includes a number of resources that will help you through your digital transformation, and you can access that for free using the QR code here or the links below. You can also reach out to me directly if you'd like to discuss your digital transformation and brainstorm ideas on how to improve where you're headed on your journey. Now let's jump back into today's content. One of the biggest issues that Lidl appeared to have in this project is that there was a resistance to change relative to what SAP provided in terms of business processes and functionality. One specific example that's apparent in the public record about this failure is that prior to the SAP implementation, Lidl had valued their inventory based on what they purchased the inventory for. SAP, on the other hand, the version they installed, based it on the actual retail value of the inventory. So two completely different ways of valuing inventory. Now, I'm not going to debate in this video which method of product costing is right, whether it should be based on purchase price or sales price. But the point is there's a big disconnect between the way Lidl operated and the way SAP operated. Now, of course, Lidl had a couple different options or ways they could handle this. They could have chosen a system that supported the way they really wanted to do the inventory valuation, which is based on purchase price, or they could have forced their organization to change to the purchase price inventory valuation and basically gone through the organizational change efforts to ensure that people could adapt to the software. But what they did instead was sort of the worst of all worlds, which is they customized the software. So they tried to change SAP to fit the way they had done things in the past. Now, maybe the old way that they had valued the inventory was the right way or the best way for them as an organization, but it could also be that they were resisting change. They might have been resisting the fact that SAP did things differently and they just didn't want to change the way they did things. And in any given implementation, you're going to run into disconnects like this, but the key is to recognize what's really important to your business and what don't you want to change, and what are the things that you do need to change or you should change, because there's no point in recreating the wheel when software maybe does things a little bit differently than you are doing them today. So there's no one-size-fits-all right or wrong answer when it comes to this, but resistance to change and the effect it has on the overall implementation is something that's very real. And that resistance to change and the after effect and the things that they did to adjust to that resistance to change were things that caused this project to spiral out of control, to take longer than expected, and also to cost a lot more than they ever expected. I mentioned earlier about how there was a change resistance or resistance to change as it relates to the way Lidl's legacy systems work versus the way SAP worked. And that led to customization. And customization is another big problem that the company had, not just with this one example that I gave a moment ago, but in general, there was just a lot of customization that the team chose to undertake as a result of their implementation. Now, anytime you're implementing an off-the-shelf system like SAP or any of the other leading ERP systems in the marketplace, there's a certain amount of base functionality that the systems have. There's a certain amount of configuration and personalization you can do with that software. But you want to be careful not to completely change or break the way the software is built. And that's what happened with Lidl, is that they customized so much that they ended up breaking the system and creating a lot of other issues on the technical side that were very hard to work through. This increased the risk of the project, it increased the cost, and it also increased the timeline that it took to deploy the technology. And not only that, but what it does too, when you customize the software as much as Lidl did, is it sort of traps you into that software longer term, and it makes it very hard to switch away from that software. In fact, we're seeing that exact same thing with other SAP customers we work with right now, where they have a legacy SAP system that was highly customized, and they're afraid or can't move to S/4HANA because they don't know how to untangle all that customization, that custom code they developed in SAP years or decades ago. So this is certainly something that Lidl fell into the trap of, and it's something that contributed to their overall failure. The technical resources that a software vendor or a system integrator is going to bring to you are probably going to be the most expensive resources on your project. On an hourly or a per person basis, it's just going to cost a lot of money to bring these people in. And you do need a certain amount of outside expertise, outside technical expertise that you may not have internally. But in the case of Lidl, they over depended on outside consultants and outside system integrators, largely because they didn't have the skill set or the capacity internally to handle a lot of the work that they needed to do. Now, again, you do need to rely on outside consultants and outside resources to bring in the competencies you don't have, but there's a fine line there. If you go too far to the extreme of just completely outsourcing the project to a third party, which it sounds like is what Lidl did, that's going to lead to a lot of failure issues. You're going to run into cost overruns. You're going to run into a lack of transparency and accountability on the part of the system integrator. And ultimately, you, the implementing organization, are not going to have ownership and control over the project if you let your system integrator manage the entire thing. And Lidl, from what I understand, just didn't have the capacity or the time to spend a lot of time managing those different work streams that the system integrators were working on. And with that open checkbook, that led to a lot of budgetary overruns and time overruns along the way. So it's really important as a takeaway here that you find that right balance of leveraging outside consultants and outside technical implementers, but don't rely on them so much that it blows your budget and it makes your team sort of in this learned helplessness mentality that leads to a lack of ownership of the project. One of the root causes of this failure at Lidl leads to their internal executive team. There was a lot of turmoil amongst the executive leadership team at the time they were going through the SAP implementation. There was turnover on the team. A lot of new team members came in at the executive level, and that created a certain amount of inconsistency and misalignment amongst that internal team. And when you have that level of inconsistency and misalignment at the top ranks, that's going to trickle down to your project, and that's going to trickle down to the front lines during a transformation like this. So you have shifting priorities, you have a shifting goal line as far as what it is that this project should look like as a result of the fact that your executive team is turning over, as in the case of Lidl. And even if you don't have high turnover at your organization, it's really important that you make sure your executive team is all on the same page with what exactly this transformation or this project means to your organization. And it's really important that those executives also make tough decisions that need to be made as part of the implementation. And I'm not talking about simple yes, no types of answers of do we customize or not, or do we stay on budget or do we not? The questions and the answers that need to be asked are not that simple. They're more like questions around how much do we really want to standardize? Do we want all 12,000 stores, in this case at Lidl? Do we want all 12,000 stores to operate the same? Do we want different regions to operate independently or separately from the parent company? Those are big strategic decisions that only executives can make. And if you don't have clarity on that, and you don't have alignment at the top, you're leaving your SAP or your ERP project team out to figure it out on their own. And they're probably going to have to guess what they think is right, which is probably not going to fit what the organization wants or needs. So it's really important to take away and learn from this that your executive team is aligned before you start the implementation. Because if you spend time making key strategic decisions all along the way while the meter is running on these expensive outside vendors and technical consultants, your budget's going to go way over. You're going to delay the project, and you'd be much better served to slow down the implementation, make these key decisions up front, get that alignment, then start the implementation. When we testify in court cases involving SAP failures, one of the questions we often get asked on the stand in court is, does SAP work? oftentimes there's finger pointing at the product, saying the product didn't work, therefore the project failed, therefore the operations came to a complete halt, and that sort of thing. And most of the time we find that SAP or any other ERP system for that matter gets wrongly blamed for the issues that happen in a project like this. SAP has been used by some of the world's largest organizations for decades now. So the software works. It may not work the way you want it to. It's not perfect. There may be things that you want to change or that you wish SAP did differently. But the fact of the matter is the software does work. The question becomes, does it work for you as an organization? And just as importantly, does the implementation work? Are you implementing the product in a way that's going to work for your business? Are you navigating those decisions and those change management issues and those operational optimization issues and the internal alignment issues? Are you navigating all that stuff effectively? None of that stuff has anything to do with SAP, but yet SAP oftentimes gets blamed when something goes wrong on one of those other fronts. So it's really important to recognize that you need to make sure you've got the right product, first of all. The product has to fit what it is you're trying to do longer term. And once you've done that, you also need to make sure you implement it well and effectively. So that was the clip of my YouTube channel where I talk about, or my YouTube video where I talk about Lidl and its SAP failure. What were some of your thoughts and takeaways from that analysis or that case study, Darian?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think everybody is going to be kind of shocked about how it feels like they spent all this money and then just completely abandoned the project. It just, yeah, it's crazy that it got to that point. A lot of it, which could have potentially been avoided too. So I think all of that is really interesting. One thing that you mentioned though was that Lidl, I don't know, fell into the trap. Yeah, they kind of fell into this trap of customizing SAP too much instead of adapting to their business processes. Why do so many companies, this is something we talk about a lot on this podcast, why do so many companies fall into this trap? Is there ever a time when heavy customization is actually the right move?
Yes. Yeah, it is. And it's such a polarizing topic. It reminds me of talking about politics or religion or something. It's just such a, if you're in this industry, it's been an age-old debate. Do you change your processes to fit the software? Do you change the software to fit your processes? The software vendors and the tech consultants are all going to tell you, change your processes to fit the software. But my problem with that is, yeah, sometimes that makes sense, but a lot of times it makes absolutely no sense to change your processes to fit the software. There might be something you're doing that you intentionally want to be different because it's a competitive differentiator, not because you're resisting change, not because you don't want to consider other options, but because it's what makes you unique and what makes you different. It gives you an edge over your competitors. Those are the types of things that you're just not going to find in an ERP system. If you found it in an ERP system or in off-the-shelf technology, then it wouldn't be a competitive advantage. So that's the natural tension that will never get resolved, in my opinion, is the tension between competitive advantage and commercial off-the-shelf software. Commercial off-the-shelf software works best in cases where it's a vanilla process that is all about efficiency. It's all about how many invoices can I process? How can I process payments faster? How can I capture customer orders faster? Those are all things that, yeah, if you can automate that using off-the-shelf software, don't recreate the wheel. Don't take that risk. Just use the vanilla technology that's already out there. Where there's a problem, though, is when you say, what is it that's so unique to you? And what is it that makes you win deals or win business against other competitors? That's where there's tension, where you've got to decide two bad decisions. You've got to pick the lesser of two evils. Do I want to give up that competitive advantage and just revert to the way the software works? Or do I want to take on the risk, the cost, and the complexity of changing the software or creating custom development software to do something that off-the-shelf software can't? And I would argue that the long-term advantage would be to customize where appropriate. And software vendors will vehemently disagree with me. And in fact, I'd love to hear in the comments, what do you think? Do you think you adapt the processes to the technology, or do you adapt the technology to the processes? And the reality is companies have to do a mix of both. I mean, I think to be successful, you need to do both. And you need to be strategic and deliberate and clear about where you do one or the other. It's too often that companies, especially executives at the executive level, will come in and say, we are going to use the software out of the box, no customization, and that's it. And that is just not realistic. I've yet to see that ever really work for an organization unless you're a startup or a really small company that doesn't have any real mature processes. Then sure, maybe you could do that. But if you're any sort of size and scale and maturity, it's just not going to work for you. But you can be smart about how you do it, and you just need to be realistic about it. So I don't know if that answers the question. There is no good answer to it. The key is finding the right answer for you, though, and not falling into the trap of believing this marketing nonsense from software vendors that says they have best practices, which is total garbage. They are not best practices. It's just the way they built the software. If they were best practices and everyone is using them, then they're not best practices. It means that's just what everyone does, even if that were true. So anyway, it doesn't make sense, doesn't exist. You have to figure out what works best for you and define a strategy that fits that.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing you talked about that I found really interesting was the learned helplessness, about how companies lean too heavy onto system integrators. What advice would you give to companies to avoid that, especially when they don't have an internal technical capacity?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, you look at the partner you're going to bring on. It starts there. The technical implementation partner should be someone that is a true partner that augments your team, but doesn't view themselves as the manager of the project or the, kind of a superior party in the relationship. And that's where I think the unhealthy relationships with these big system integrators, that's where these projects would go off rails early on, is because exactly what you said, Darian, the company doesn't have their own internal competencies. So they're going to go hire one of the big brand names to help them implement the solution that presumably does have the technical competency. So they'll go out and hire Accenture or Deloitte or KPMG, PwC, whoever. And they think, okay, well, these guys and gals know the software better than anyone. They're going to augment our team. But what those big companies do is they come in and they take over the project. They take complete control. And that's what they want. They want control of the project. In fact, we just recently in the last year, we have a really big client. It's a company that does over $10 billion in revenue. They're multinational. They're implementing SAP, and their system integrator, I won't mention who it is, but it's one of the big names that I just mentioned. Their system integrator contract, the system integrator insisted that they have ultimate decision-making authority over the project. And this company agreed to it. This is a big, fairly sophisticated company with a big procurement department and all these people that are there to manage risk and all this stuff. Yet they still agreed to this. And I asked them, why in the world did you agree to let the system integrator have ultimate decision-making authority on the project? The only answer they could give is, well, they said they were going to walk away from the opportunity if we didn't agree to it. And we really wanted to hire him. And so anyway, you can't, I don't know how to help in cases like that where you back yourself into a corner and you let the system integrator have complete control. They hired us to try and wrestle back some of that control and get more visibility into the project, which is the other part of this, by the way. It's not just hiring someone who's going to be on equal footing with you, or at least be an equal partner with you. In fact, I would argue they shouldn't even be an equal partner. They should be a subcontractor that you manage. It doesn't matter if you don't have the technical competencies, you can still manage them. And I think you have to have that ownership, because it gets back to this other point I was starting to make, which is visibility into what they're doing. Their job, the bigger the system integrator, the bigger the consulting part, the more true this comment is. But their job and their measure of success is how many people can they get billable on your project as fast as possible. If they could get 20 instead of 15 full-time people, they're going to do it. If they can get 25 and you're not going to balk at it, they're going to do it. Doesn't matter if they're adding value. Doesn't matter if they really need all 25. They're going to do it. And if you don't ask questions and you don't manage those resources and help manage those resources and hold them accountable, they're going to keep growing like a cancer within your organization until one day you look up and realize, I've got 100 consultants here. I have no idea what they're doing. And we're spending way too much money on these consultants, which you're starting to see some backlash with, like even in the U.S. federal government, they're starting to throttle that back and say, we're cutting all these big, massive, bloated contracts that no one's ever looked at. To hold people accountable. So it comes back to ownership, visibility, and transparency into what they're doing. It comes to which partner you use and what the relationship was with that partner. These big partners oftentimes are sort of like I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I'll say it anyway. This is back to earlier comment about marketing not filtering. This is the downside of not having a marketing to filter your comments sometimes, but it's almost like being in an abusive relationship where you've got someone who is treating you like crap, but you put up with it because you feel like you have to. And, you know, it's, you know, they're doing it for your own good, you know, and that's sort of the relationship system integrators oftentimes have with their clients. And I think we just have to break that cycle to be effective, and companies need to take more ownership and responsibility for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought it was a great video overall and just a great episode today. Lots of great topics, and Vladimir was great too.
Yes. Yeah. Very passionate, very energetic, very entertaining. And he had some great knowledge to share, obviously, as well. Very, very smart guy, very insightful. So good. Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks for your help today, Darian. Thanks for your help, audience members, with all your questions and comments. Keep the questions coming in, and we'll keep pulling some of your questions and ideas for future episodes. You can find all the past episodes of this show at transformationgroundcontrol.com. Be sure to check new episodes every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. You can subscribe to whatever platform you want on that same website as well. If you'd like to learn more about Third Stage Consulting Group and how we can help with your digital transformation efforts, feel free to reach out to me. I've included my contact information below, and we'd love to help out. We've got a team of 100 people, or close to 100 people throughout the world, that can help with your transformation initiatives. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of Transformation Ground Control. Take care.